to America Can We Talk? I'm Debbie Georgatos. Thanks so much for tuning in. Today we're going to talk about the EU, Nigel Farage speaks for us, Trump rallies versus the impeachment implosion, Buttigieg, American Heartland is a racist term, is a dog whistle, and the Texas blue wave hoax. And I'll tell you why these stories matter to you. Stay tuned.
Debbie Georgatos, host of America Can We Talk, is an author, attorney, and political analyst whose mission is to inspire the American political conversation about preserving liberty in the best country on earth. America Can We Talk is sponsored by GC Works, a Dallas-based company performing advanced technology research in the oil and gas industry.
And hello again, and welcome to America Can We Talk and to today's First Five. I'm Debbie Georgatos. Tomorrow, Friday, January 31st at midnight, the UK officially withdraws from the European Union. In the First Five today, I want to start by playing a clip. This is Nigel Farage in a speech, in his exit speech at the EU. I had to clip it. We couldn't play all of it, but I encourage you to listen to all of it, really laying out not just why the UK wanted to leave the EU, but much more broadly, just kind of laying out where we are in the world today, where people are. Our thinking is about wanting to free ourselves from the elite ruling class and reassert the right of the people to govern themselves. This is Nigel Farage in the EU.
Thank you, Mr. Farage, for 4 minutes.
Thank you very much. So this is it, the final chapter, the end of the road. A 47-year political experiment that the British, frankly, have never been very happy with. My mother and father signed up to a common market, not to a political union, not to flags, anthems, presidents, and now you even want your own army. But my view has changed of Europe since I joined. In 2005, I saw the constitution that had been drafted by Giscard and others. I saw it rejected by the French in a referendum. I saw it rejected by the Dutch in a referendum. And I saw you in these institutions ignore them, bring it back as a Lisbon Treaty and boast you could ram it through without there being referendums. Well, the Irish did have a vote and did say no and were forced to vote again. You're very good at making people vote again. But what we've proved is the British are too big to bully, thank goodness. So I'm hoping this begins the end of this project. It's a bad project. It isn't just undemocratic, it's anti-democratic, and it puts in that front row. It gives people power without accountability. People who cannot be held to account by the electorate. And that is an unacceptable structure. Indeed, there's an historic battle going on now across the West, in Europe, America, and elsewhere. It is globalism against populism. And you may loathe populism, but I tell you a funny thing, it's becoming very popular. And it has great benefits. No more financial contributions, no more European Court of Justice, no more common fisheries policy, no more being talked down to, no more being bullied. I know you're going to miss us. I know you want to ban our national flags, but we're going to wave you goodbye. And we'll look forward in the future to working with you as sovereign.
If you disobey the rules, you get cut off. Could we please remove the flags? Mr. Farage, could we remove the flags, please?
That's it, it's all over.
Okay, I loved that. And I actually think some of the ideas he brought up are so important for us in America to talk about. First of all, the woman who was conducting the meeting, who called on him to speak, what she was saying at the end is, put away the flags. No flags allowed. That is such a symbolic statement by her, such a symbolic message from her to the EU, to the rest of the world. We don't care about the identity of your country. We don't care what the European Union does not care what the UK thinks they are. It doesn't care for your flag, for your people, your values, your uniqueness. I do want to put a twist, though, on what Nigel Farage was saying. He was making a contrast between the populists and the globalists. And while that is not incorrect, it's not refined enough to describe, and for people who are real patriots in America to hold on to and grasp. And so I want to talk about why it's so important to get those ideas straight. The larger spirit, what Nigel Farage is saying, what's happening in America and the support of President Trump, it is that spirit of populism. It is that spirit of people saying, no, we're not going to have ruling elites who do not listen to us. But populism can mean a lot of things. It can mean whatever the majority wants, whatever the popular vote is, becomes what is the rule. And that is not the deal in America. We do have democratic elections, but we are a republic, meaning we have Democrat elections governed by and with guardrails and protections as set out in the Declaration and then the Constitution. So, for example, if the majority of Americans wanted to vote that women in America could no longer vote, they can't take away that right of women to vote, because the larger governing structure, the Constitution, has the amendment in it that says that women can vote. If the majority of Americans wanted to say that one particular religion is not allowed anymore, or that certain political kinds of statements cannot be made, even if you had a majority vote for that, you can't make that law in America as long as you follow the Constitution, because populism, even if the majority want it, because the idea of America is not exactly populism. It is the idea of a country ruled by a set of values that we agreed to at our founding, that we still apply today, we still follow today. And this is an important distinction, because much of what the American left does in attacking, or I should say the anti-American left does in attacking President Trump and attacking his followers, is to mock people who are enthusiastic about the idea of America first, of restoring America. Leftists try to treat the idea that people who want to restore the dignity of America, the sovereignty of America, the borders of America, the military of America, the idea of America as a free country, all of that is rejected as silly, shallow, ignorant populism, or just not belonging in the modern era. That's ancient thinking, old thinking, wrong thinking, founders thinking. But these really are at the heart and soul, at the core of what Nigel Farage was talking about and what President Trump is trying to do in America. He's trying to restore the idea of America, the idea of the individuals having a government that's responsive to them, a government that listens to them. So we have elections, and then when we elect people, we expect them to follow through on what the promises they made, the principles they said they believed in, within the structure of our Constitution. So thrilled to have this spirit of Nigel Farage just bursting out on the international stage. I've forgotten how many millions of views that had on Facebook, on YouTube earlier today. But there's a spirit of freedom, of patriotism, of just an uprising against the global ruling elite that Nigel Farage captured in that little segment, and that President Trump has captured, which caused him to win the 2016 elections and will cause him again to win the 2020 elections. And that, my friends, is today's First Five. I want to turn, though, Nigel Farage, by the way, just a brilliant leader in England. He's been leader of Brexit, too, led all along in that. But I want to turn to where we are now in the impeachment, the Trump rallies versus the impeachment implosion. I want to start just a little bit first on the Trump rallies. He did another one I talked about yesterday, I think briefly, in Wildwood, New Jersey. And I think it's important to understand these rallies are, first of all, obviously, in the rallies, people have to buy tickets. And my husband and I went to one here in Texas, and you had to buy a ticket. And, just the spirit, the happiness, the upbeat nature of people at those rallies. It is just a happy group of America-loving people. And there's not vitriol, there's not anger, there's not hatred. There's just the enthusiasm of wanting to hear a president who is really not changing American thought. He's actually saying things that Americans have been saying to each other in their homes, in their families, in their communities, around the country for decades. He is speaking about in some ways, President Trump is, he is Republican and he's on the Republican ticket, but he is really just standing up for the idea of America. That's what he's talking about. And that's why people are so drawn to him. They love hearing a person, a president, a leader, unabashedly proud to be American, to stand up for America, to reassert America's goodness, to fight back against the efforts of the American left in academia, politics, and everywhere else to denigrate the idea of America. People are not personally drawn in some cultish way to President Trump. They are drawn to the passion that he expresses about America, the goodness, the love of America. So on his rallies, he had this rally in New Jersey. There was actually a tweet from the president's, I think I don't know if he's his campaign manager, but Brad Parscale, in this rally in Wildwood, New Jersey. 26%, and when you register, you have to fill out a form to get it, so they know who you are. And they can take those names and run them through their databases, the voter databases. 26% of the attendees at Wildwood, 26 were Democrats. So that's over 1/4 of the people there wildly, happily cheering. 10% did not vote in 2016. These are people, and I'm telling you, not just 2016, but President Trump brought in 2016 many people who hadn't voted for decades. And in this coming election, he's bringing more people in. And people get out of voting for during elections for a lot of reasons. A lot of it is just plain old disgust with the political ruling class that never seems to be listening to the people. This is what Nigel Farage was hitting at. The people of two different countries said, we don't like the Constitution you came up with. And the EU ruling elites just jammed it through anyway, did it anyway. But these people in this country finally recognize we have a president who's listening to the people, who's going to stand up for the ideas he said he'd stand up for. People are excited. So they had, for this venue that fit, I think, whatever it was, 17,000 people, they had 158,000 requested tickets. 73,000 of those tickets were voters they could identify. And then again, 10% or over 10% didn't vote in 2016. 26% were Democrats. So you had a rally in New Jersey where you had new voters and Democrat voters cheering the president on. Second is at the rallies, and this again was true in Wildwood, New Jersey, President Trump is perfectly willing to openly talk about the insane sham nature of this impeachment. This is a man who does not have a guilty conscience. This is a man proud of his leadership of this country, proud of his interactions with Zelensky of Ukraine, and very comfortable telling America in plain English, this is a sham, this is a railroad, this is a witch hunt. I've done nothing wrong. These are the words and the actions of an innocent man, and it resonates with the American people. So this is a man doing these rallies, bringing people in, openly denouncing the Democrats and talking about the impeachment as just a sham. And I think that is these kinds of things I'm talking about are starting to resonate within the GOP and the Senate. I want to play something. There was actually, so where we are right now, I think today the final questions of the senators of both sides, the senators are essentially the jury. They're able to ask questions of the House managers who presented their case and the GOP, the White House lawyers representing President Trump. So there's been talk all week that the GOP, the majority of the U.S. Senate, did not have sufficient votes to simply vote to acquit, which is what many people want. Many people want. Get this behind us. This is a sham. We don't have to keep pretending there's something real about it and dig in with more witnesses. In any case, earlier this week, there were reports that said, the GOP doesn't have the votes to acquit, and there were rumors that we may have to call witnesses. If we can't acquit, which is to find President Trump not guilty, move on, then you may have to call witnesses. Well, I think things are changing, and now there's talk out of Washington that the GOP does have sufficient votes to move to acquit. I'm going to tell you some of the factors that are in play there. Number one, President Trump is supposed to give his State of the Union next week. I think there's a little bit going on in the Republicans' minds, picturing, because everybody knows when President Trump does a State of the Union, or does other formal speeches, the American people rally behind him. He is strong in his speeches. He is not tentative. He is not apologetic. He is not looking for compromise. He's standing up for exactly what he said he was going to do when he ran. I think a lot of senators don't like that picture of sitting there during a State of the Union with cameras panning to them, and they are the ones who will not move this along to just acquit the president. I also think there's just a sense in Washington when people watch these rallies, watch President Trump at the Wildwood, New Jersey rally, many other rallies, just thinking, you know, this is the wrong fight to fight. I mentioned I called them the treacherous trio yesterday, and I want to make a little bit of a distinction about them. I think that one of the three, Mitt Romney from Utah, is entirely driven by self-interest, by ego, by malice. Has been criticized and mocked by President Trump a few times. He's just driven by ego, malice, and pettiness. And he would happily continue attacking President Trump through perpetuating this impeachment trial if he thought it wouldn't hurt him. But he is way down in the polls now in Utah, and a Utah member of the state house in Utah, the state government, a state representative in Utah, has introduced a bill to get to the point, make it law in Utah that the voters can recall a duly elected member of the U.S. House or Senate. That's how mad they are in Utah. They're mad at this guy, at Mitt Romney. It's a Republican member of the Utah House introducing a bill saying, maybe we got to make it possible to pull this guy back. He simply is, we don't like anything he's doing. So that was a great thing. So I think in the Senate, they're watching the president's popularity and they're thinking, that this is not playing well. We have nowhere to go with this. And, I think a lot of them are starting to think, wait a minute, we're going to be okay. We Republicans, we're going to go along with this John Bolton, breaking presidential conferences, breaking the executive privilege and call him, but we're going to protect the identity of this super secret, everyone knows who it is, whistleblower. I mean, there's just so much about the whole scene that makes them just look morally vacant, morally weak, just unwilling to stand up. But I want to play for you something. I had no idea how dang funny Senator Rick Scott of Florida is. Senator Rick Scott of Florida did a little video, and he is obviously, it's his first term in the U.S. Senate. He's been governor of Florida. He's up there in the Senate. He's been listening to the Senate impeachment proceedings. And Senator Rick Scott did a video. I want to play that for you. We'll talk a little bit. He had something else very funny he put up. But first I want to play, if Matt, the one, if you have it ready, this is a video of Senator Rick Scott of Florida talking about the impeachment proceedings.
Hi, I'm Rick Scott. As you may have heard, I've been taken hostage along with 99 other people in the U.S. Capitol. We are receiving only milk and water, and we are being subjected to the cruel and unusual punishment of listening to the rantings of Adam Schiff, a person from a parallel universe. On a slightly more serious note, everything that is happening in Washington around this impeachment fiasco is political theater. None of it is real, and nothing will come of it. This entire drama that has consumed our federal government for months should have been conducted at the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, not at the U.S. Capitol. Oh, and one more thing. You, the taxpayers, you're funding this entire production. But there's no plot twist in this drama. It's all very straightforward. The Democrats hate Donald Trump. They don't just dislike the guy. They hate him. They decided to impeach him even before he took office. The case they presented to the Senate was embarrassingly weak. Therefore, they want to use the Senate to go fishing for more evidence by calling more witnesses. They have admitted to the jury that their case is lame. My message to the Democrats is simple. I listened to your case and listened and listened. It's absurd. Goodbye. Go home. We have an election in 9 months. Go give that a shot. But I will promise you this. If we end up having witnesses in the U.S. Senate, Joe Biden will be called to testify. And if that happens, he will be too cowardly to show up. But if he did show up, here's what I will ask him. Mr. Biden, why did you, as Vice President of the United States, threaten a foreign country and force him to fire a prosecutor who was investigating a company that was paying your son $83,000 a month? Also, Mr. Vice President, are you proud that you got away with that? And do you think the American people are that stupid? We all know what went on here. You are not fooling anyone. Thanks for listening. I want to go back to my diet of milk and water. Please send help.
Okay, I think he's so funny. I love that he did. It's obviously it's a campaign ad, paid for by, but it's also, this is a guy who is helping America, willing to say to America, this is a bogus nothing, and there should be all of the rest Republican senators coming on board saying that too. But again, wrapping up the segment, word out of Washington, there is apparently, the GOP is now saying the Senate side, we probably can have enough votes to vote on no witnesses, vote to acquit, move on, even as early as tomorrow. Please let that happen tomorrow. It is time for the whole country to be done with this impeachment thing. I think the Republicans are fully aware. The Democrats have hurt themselves. They've made themselves look foolish. There's nothing to this. And I'll tell you, by the way, one last quick thing on this. There are actually 3 Democrat senators now being rumored likely to vote with the Republicans to vote to acquit the president, to vote to find not guilty. They are Senator Joe Manchin, West Virginia. He's always on the edge of being a Republican anyway. Kristen Sinema of Arizona and Doug Jones of Alabama, all 3 from states where they think Trump's pretty popular and they're not about to vote to impeach. So they're pretty clear on they're talking about likelihood they will also vote to acquit the president. One last thing, just for your entertainment, same guy you just heard speaking, Senator Rick Scott from Florida, who did that really funny video, we're being held hostage. I don't know, that just cracked me up. I think that was fabulous. But in any case, he sits in the Senate hearing, at the Senate trial, the impeachment. You cannot have your phone with you or anything recording. And so, people, but they can leave and then they can retrieve their phone and send out tweets and texts and such. So there was a tweet sent out by this guy, Chad Pergram, and he was, I guess, in the Senate hearing, and he said, he got this comment from Rick Scott. GOP Florida Senator Rick Scott on trial. We saw that protester yell something bad about Chuck Schumer. I'm thinking about possibly doing the same thing, so the sergeant at arms will take me out also. This is ridiculous. We've heard the same thing 3 days in a row. So, I'm a new fan. I mean, I always liked him, but I'm a new fan of the humor of Senator Rick Scott of Florida. Love that he's doing that. Okay, folks, I want to turn and talk to and the impeachment. The impeachment theater is one side of the theater we're watching. Another whole theater we're watching is the Democrat presidential nomination and the debates and all that. You likely realize that this coming Tuesday, February 3rd, is the Iowa caucus. And so the Democrat side is, a complete mess. The presidential candidates, ones who've stepped up. We've been over them many times. I want to mention something that happened to Pete Buttigieg, who is still, and actually, not only is he still in, he hasn't dropped out, but he, in some polls, kind of edges up. He's trying to characterize himself as someone who's a little bit more moderate than some of the people, some of the other Democrats who are on the stage with him. So, Matt, I can't remember. Did I send you that? I hope I did. I did send you that. Okay, so we were, today I had it, anyway. I send Matt the Wonderful, and I'm so grateful for him. Changing things last minute, he's always right in the ball. So Pete Buttigieg put out this tweet. I want to have you read the tweet first, which is this. In the face of unprecedented challenge, we need a president whose vision was shaped by the American heartland rather than the ineffective Washington politics we've come to know and expect. So Pete Buttigieg, presidential candidate, mayor of South Bend, Indiana. I think he still is mayor, hasn't even stepped down. Anyway, he put that tweet out. And, he's trying to say, and I get what he'd be trying to say, I'm not like the crazy, I'm not Bernie Sanders, I'm not a radical socialist, I'm not Elizabeth Warren, I'm not that crazy socialist either. I'm not Joe Biden. I can keep track of what day it is and what city I'm in, and, I'm mentally alert. He's trying to distinguish himself in some way. He's had a terrible, terrible time getting support from black voters. And as you likely know, to win the Democrat presidential race, Democrat candidates must win virtually all or mostly all of the black vote in America. They cannot win without it. So, but Pete Buttigieg has been polling, I think the highest he's polled among Democrat black voters is 2%. So he's having a really hard time with them anyway, with the black vote, and he's made overt gestures on his campaign to try to reach out to black voters. So that little tweet we just read, that he said he used the expression Heartland values, which I'm going to tell you, folks, everyone in this country has known, for 100 years what that means. Heartland values refers to the, flyover country America, the middle of America, the America where people still, like intact families, believe in hard work, believe in the American dream, believe in freedom and not socialism. They like Friday night football. They go to church on Sunday morning. They believe in the nuclear family unit. They believe in traditional values. They believe in loving your neighbor as yourself. They believe in community. They believe in America. They believe in the idea of America. And so he's contrasting those kind of heartland ideas with the extreme leftism on the left coast in California and on the right coast, all the big East Coast cities. So he's contrasting heartland values to radical leftism. Everybody knows this, and actually they do know this, but many Democrats seized on the opportunity to attack Pete Buttigieg, to say, wow, he used a racist dog whistle expression, Heartland America, or America Heartland. I am not kidding when I tell you there are Democrats in this country who, famous ones, tweeted, posted, and commented that Pete Buttigieg, using the term Heartland America, was sending a dog whistle of racism. They actually seized on that. Now I have to say, many people are tired of leftists in this country, the politically correct, radically left version of, segment of this country, attacking anyone who will not agree with them by calling them racist. Everybody is sick of that. They just don't want to have to deal with that anymore. But Pete Buttigieg has now become the victim of the leftist politics of these leftist voters that he needs. Just to be really clear, why they're saying that this tweet is racist is because one example was there was some actor, I've never heard of him, or filmmaker, who was saying, has weighed in to ask whether places like Compton, California could ever be considered the American heartland. Respectfully, where is the American heartland located exactly in your mind as you write this tweet? Does it include Compton or other places like it? Because us folks from those places would like a president shaped by our vision too. Serious question, would love an answer. I could read you a bunch of other tweets and critiques, but I really want to say in all seriousness, I think Pete Buttigieg had a really noble and good reason to send that tweet, because he is trying to say, I'm not the radical crazy of many of the Democrat candidates for president. I'm not crazy like Bernie. I'm not crazy like Elizabeth Warren. I'm Heartland America. It has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with skin color. It has nothing to do with ethnicity. It has everything to do with values. And Heartland America values are what I just talked about and many more. Respect for the individual, respect for freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, the whole concept of a free country where we'd never entertain socialism, families that care for each other, communities, strong schools, all this goodness of Heartland America that has not been attacked by the left-wing ideas of growing centralized government, big control over society, growing centralized government that controls everything about your life, which is what the leftists have embraced in this country. Buttigieg trying to say that is attacked as a racist. He's not a person I'd ever vote for. I'm not going to vote for any Democrat for president because the party is so radically left, but he doesn't deserve to be called a racist over this. You may not like him for other reasons, other campaign reasons, whatever your reasons are, but he doesn't deserve the racist tag over this. But it's a very interesting dynamic to watch, because the other thing that's happening is he's not been able to attract the black vote. Much of the feedback political analysts will give you is that black voters in America tend to be conservative with respect to issues relating to marriage. There probably are, and I know this from even working my own political activism in Texas, working with black conservatives who have said to me there's a particularly strong determination within the black community to defend marriage, and that there is less receptivity in the black community in America to the idea of gay marriage, same-sex marriage, or all the other kind of radically leftist social ideas that the left has. It's not popular in the black community. So he's struggling with that vote and trying to reach out, and yet he did a very understandable, a very comprehensible tweet about what Heartland America means, and that's who he is. He's not the radical left of the both coasts, and he has been just vilified. I think there's actually within the Democrat Party, they're getting nervous. Their convention's coming up. It's like it's in July. Here we are, it's the end of January tomorrow. It's in July, so we're getting to be 5 months away, and the Democrats have no clear winner in their primary. They have Hillary recently again said, I'm feeling very, very strongly pulled to running, or worse to that effect. So Hillary wants to get in the middle of it all and rescue them all, show up at the convention and say she'll be their candidate. And I think the Democrat powers that be are trying to start to weed out people they think cannot win. They think Pete Buttigieg won't win the primary, but they think he definitely would not win the general. So they're trying to put pressure on him. They're trying to put pressure on Bernie, even though they're very careful this time, because Bernie Sanders' socialist ideas will not sell in America, and they know that too. So the powers that be pulling strings behind the scenes of the Democrat Party, trying to pull people out like Buttigieg, Sanders, and they're trying to prop up Elizabeth Warren as a moderate. She's just as socialist as Bernie Sanders. She's just smart enough to call herself that. I could talk more about that. I'll hit one more story today before we have to wrap up. I gotta tell you, folks, these shows go by so quickly every time I talk to you. I mean, every time I do the show, I'm driving here thinking of other stories I could have tried to include. What can I get to within the time frame, and recognizing I can't cover all the stories I want to cover every day. I mean, if I had 3 hours a day on this show, maybe I could cover more. But the deciding factor for me, I do always look at the stories, the news of the day, try to hit some of the top stories, the concerns, the issues I care about a lot. I try to address those. But the real reason I do this show is just to talk with you, to everyone who listens to this show, about the idea that we Americans are blessed to live in the most prosperous, free, noble, good country on earth. We are blessed to live here, whether you were born here or you came here and became a citizen. And our job in every generation is to preserve this country, to preserve these founding ideals. What Nigel Farage was making allusion to in his statement in the European Union, what President Trump is talking about all the time. It is this idea of a country rooted in the respect for individual liberty, the idea that we are endowed by God with rights, not we have the number and limitation on rights as some human government decides we should have, but that, as the Declaration says, we're endowed by our Creator with rights to live our life and liberty and pursue our version of happiness. We have a God-given right simply because we're born. That's what the uniqueness of America is. And when Donald Trump is reasserting American identity and the left tries to say, oh, that's dangerous, racist, nationalism, no, it's not. It has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with the ideas that gave rise, that gave birth to this country, that are the only ideas that can hold this country up as we are watching the most astonishing assault from radical leftism in an attempt to take over this country. This is why I do the show, to speak up for America every day. And I want to urge you, if you listen to the show and you like the show, please subscribe to my newsletter. You can go to americacanwetalk.org on the homepage, hit subscribe. I'll send a once-a-week email on Fridays with links to the show, all the segments during the week. It's a great way to catch up on the weekend and the show. It's also a great way to share the show with your friends. Please subscribe. Also, I'll tell you that this show has survived since its founding, since I started doing it in 2014. This show has survived on donations. And at this time, more than all the time I've been on air, this show is being censored, is being limited, we are watching because we can see the data, watching the tech giants who try to control conservative conversation in this country. We're watching them limit this show's growth. Now, I'll say the show's doing great, numbers are up, but we get all sorts of reinforcement that people are listening. But the show could be much more broad, could reach more people in this crucial election year if you could possibly help by supporting it. And by that I mean we're using any donations we get We'll spend those donations on helping to go around social media and their attempt to censor conservative voices and get this message of this show and America's greatness to more people. If you can, subscribe. If you can donate in any way to this show, you go to the website, americacanwetalk.org. On the homepage, hit the donate button. You can make a one-time donation or a recurring donation. It would help immensely. I want to keep talking about America because America is the most important, extraordinary experiment in human liberty ever to bless this earth. And it is the duty of patriots in every generation to perpetuate it, to understand it, to explain it to the next generation. That's what I'm trying to do. I didn't mean to go off on that riff right now, but it just kind of occurred to me to do that. Okay, but I want to hit the last topic for today, and has to do with something the left does all the time. I call this Texas and the Blue Wave hoax. So there was an election in Texas, obviously not in the normal course. I mean, we have primaries coming up in March, we have the general in November, but in Texas we had a special election because a member of the Texas State House, and to be clear, I am not talking about U.S. Congress. I'm talking about the Texas State Legislature. We had a race in Texas involving a seat that was held in the Texas Legislature by a Republican. He resigned in the middle of his term to go. He took a job in the administration somehow, I think at University of Texas. So there was an open seat. So we had an election in this relatively obscure Texas House seat, HD 28, House District 28. But the reason this is the national story, and it was all over national news, is this. The Democrats have been saying that they can take Texas. You have to understand, if Texas goes blue, there will never be another Republican president for a long time. The number of electoral votes we have in Texas, the size of Texas as a conservative state, holds this country's potential to hold on to America. We hold it right here. Texas, as my friend Alan West says, we lose Texas, we lose the nation. We cannot lose Texas. So the Democrats have been talking about the blue wave coming. And the blue wave is this idea that, the Democrats' ideas are resonating around this country, that Americans cannot wait to join in and fight for the left-wing values the Democrat Party stands for, and that Texas is turning blue. And look at the change in demographics. Look at the number of people who are new citizens who come to Texas from California, which is a little bit of a problem, but people coming over the border, people becoming legal. The argument is, as the demographics change in Texas, the Democrat Party is going to just walk into victory, that America loves these radically leftist ideas the Democrat Party now stands for. So the Democrats poured a mountain of money into a little old Texas House seat. A little old House seat that was Republican and had obviously a Republican and Democrat eventually made it to runoffs. They had, people line up to run, and then they get to primaries and runoffs. So here was a runoff. So this House District 28, the Republican, his name is Gary Gates, and the Democrat was Eliz, E-L-I-Z, that's what she goes by, Eliz Markowitz, Texas House District 28. And Beto O'Rourke actually came to this district, block walked for this candidate. We're big on block walking in Texas. We walk block, we get to candidates, we knock on doors. Hi, my name is Debbie, I'm here to support so-and-so. We block walk. Beto O'Rourke, the very famous empty suit, Beto O'Rourke, other people got behind. Endorsements by all these big national Democrats. 92% of the money raised by the Democrat, Eliz Markowitz, came from out of state. And the Republican won in a big fat trouncing, 58% to 42. Again, in the blue wave with Beto O'Rourke knocking on doors, other famous Democrats showing up in the district, nationally prominent, massive Democrat money poured in. And the Republican won 58 to 42. And I want to tell you why these stories matter. Number one, last time in Texas, 2018, we had talk of this blue wave coming. And we did have a reduced margin of victory for some of the statewide Republicans. And some of the statewide Republicans took that as a message that the left was kind of making inroads, and that the way to move the state in order to accommodate this moving to the center was for these Republicans who won to move to the center. I'm telling you, folks, that's the wrong answer. And this is not just true in Texas, it's true across this country. What the left in this country, the anti-American left that has taken over the Democrat Party, stands for are radically dangerous, anti-American, destructive ideas that have no place anywhere in America. Anywhere. The socialism that is not just Bernie Sanders, it is pretty much the entire Democrat Party leadership. It's woven into their platform. This whole notion of Buttigieg, I believe, is one of the ones who talks about we should have a national guaranteed basic income, a universal basic income. Everyone gets $1,000 just for waking up in the morning. And once a year, whatever it is, $1,000 a month, a year, whatever it is. I think it's a month. So you have ideas like this, which are all tethered around the concept of having a growing centralized power in Washington, D.C. that controls every aspect of your life. Your healthcare system, your housing, where you're allowed to live, what you're allowed to drive. You have the Green New Deal that is nothing less than the communist takeover of America. You've got to read that bill. It has very little to do with environment and everything to do with a radical, centralized, just like Russia, just like communist Russia government created right before us by the Democrat Party. I am telling you, this is not selling in the famous heartland of America. This is not selling in most of America. The more people understand what the left stands for, they are running away. The Democrats are trying to tell America that President Trump is so unpopular, that Trump is a problem, that Trump is the guy, he's so bad that everyone's going to flood the ballot box to vote for every Democrat just to oust Trump. And they're saying this at a time that President Trump is holding rallies in Democrat states that break all conceivable records ever kept. There's nothing like this phenomenon in American history, and yet the Democrats want to look you in the face and say, yeah, Trump is a problem, man. He is so unpopular. He is going to cause, he's going to the ruin of this country. Everyone will come running to us. So here are my lessons to you. Number one, believe in yourself. Believe in your read of the issues, not what the media tells you, not what the Democrats tell you. America, I'll tell you, I was leery about President Trump early on, candidate Trump, early on in 2016. Hadn't paid much attention to him, was behind another candidate, didn't know much about him, about President Trump. But people, and there are literally millions and millions and millions of Americans who took the same journey I did, who kind of wondered about him, flamboyant, billionaire, kind of known as a playboy, who is this guy, to recognizing this guy is the one who has the backbone, the strength, the temerity, the determination to stand up to restore America, that will call out the left for the danger they are to America. This is where we are in 2020. This little race in Texas HD 28 watched all over the country with you had the leftists declaring they were going to win this. It was too close to call. 58 to 42. 58 to 42 is a landslide in politics. And this is not, to understand, this is a district kind of nowhereville, not a lot of people who even live in the area, but the activity that rose up within that state, within our state, within surrounding areas to say, we've got to get the message of the Republican Party, the GOP, conservatism, what America is, what Texas is. We have to let those voters know that's what's on the ballot this time and in every single race in 2020. Please understand this. Every race you vote in 2020, from dog catcher to president, the question is, are you buying in to the radical leftist agenda that has overtaken the Democrat Party, or are you voting to preserve America? That's the question. And I think the vast majority of Americans will vote to preserve America. I always, at the end of the show, turn to kind of summarizing and saying again what I said once. I do this through this, I call it the why it matters, but I want to tell you why the stories we talked about today matter to you. So we started our show today talking about the story of the EU, Nigel Farage speaking for us. That's kind of a double entendre, like United States and us. Farage's 4-minute farewell speech at the EU and the EU Grand Poobah's response, that woman, I don't know her name, perfectly capture the spirit of the times throughout the Western world. Globalism versus populism, ideas of freedom, self-governance, no ruling class elites, no unaccountable bureaucrats. These matter to freedom-loving, self-reliant people everywhere. Put your flags away captures ruling class disdain for the stupid nationalistic masses. EU's denouncement of hate, I didn't play the part at the end, but she complained about because he said the word hate. EU's denouncement of hate doesn't resonate because it's phony. Farage said he loved Europe, but hated the European Union. The difference between loving people and hating soulless authoritarian institutions. Trump and Farage aren't creating a movement. They are reflecting it. They're reflecting the hearts and minds of millions on this planet who want a restoration of their right to self-governance, to choosing their government. They want to have a government that listens to them and not a ruling elite. Trump rallies versus the impeachment implosion. Believe your eyes. Trump rallies are unique in American presidential history. They're voluntary, not paid. The enthusiasm is genuine, not rehearsed. We have ticket demands 5 times the venue's capacity, huge numbers of people who didn't vote in 2016 or maybe ever, and huge numbers of Democrats. All Dem presidential candidates taken together could not draw half of a Trump rally, and the left still has no idea why. Momentum is building towards senatorial acquittal in the impeachment sham. Senators see the rallies. Senators see there is no evidence and no crime. Senator Rick Scott's video delivers the ultimate blow, ridicule. Senator Collins is no Romney. She'll likely get to the right answer. That was a piece I didn't get into, but Senator Collins, she's from Maine, she doesn't have that Romney arrogance. She really is trying to get to the right answer, and she did get to the right answer in Kavanaugh. I think she'll get to the right answer on this time to acquit. On Buttigieg, American Heartland is a dog whistle. Liberals like Buttigieg have no idea of the leftist monster they've created and fed. American Heartland values are different than coastal leftist values, but they're not remotely racist. Heartland values are American values. Faith, family, football, neighborhoods, communities, freedom and free markets, individual responsibility, loving your neighbor and loving your country, hard work, play by the rules, entrepreneurship. The Democrat establishment may be angling to get Buttigieg out of the race because no Democrat can win without a big turnout and a big majority of the black vote. And Buttigieg is polling at 2% among Democrat black voters. In Texas, in the blue wave hoax, Texas State House Rep special election results, the Dems' blue wave predictions were dead wrong. All-out Democrat blitz to flip State House seat District 28 in Fort Bend County. Endorsements from Biden for the Democrat. Biden, Warren, Bloomberg, block walking by Beto O'Rourke and Julian Castro. 94% of the Democrats' campaign contributions came from outside the district, a very nationalized campaign. Dems pre-election projected dead heat, not even close. Result, biggest turnout in history for a special election runoff. Republican candidate won by 16 points, more than twice the GOP incumbent's margin in 2018, bigger district margin than Trump's 10-point win in 2016. The blue wave in Texas looks totally bogus for 2020. 2018 results look increasingly strange. And that, my friends, is America Can We Talk for today. Please email me at americacanwetalk@gmail.com. On social media, like, follow, subscribe. You know the drill. Help me grow support for my show. Support the show. Subscribe to the newsletter at my website, americacanwetalk.org. And above everything else, please speak up for America every day in your everyday life. Speak up for America, this extraordinary gift from human liberty that we have been given the obligation, the duty, and the great privilege of defending in this generation. Tune in to this show because I speak up for America, because America matters. I'll talk to you next time.
Like a
Talk. Truth about America.
Can